How's it going, guys, and welcome to my UFC 197 prediction video. Just got finished watching the UFC weigh-ins. I didn't watch them live, I watched them on the YouTube channel. I just finished watching the Bellator event. Benson Henderson got beat real convincingly as well. The guy probably won every single round, really, apart from the last round. Maybe he won that as well, I don't know. You know, the Russian guy just dominated Benson. And Benson were clearly too small for that guy, or is too small for the welterweight division. Anyway, watched the weigh-ins and really impressed with how all the fighters looked. John Jones looks great, especially because he's had this hiatus from the sport because of all these legal problems and everything like that. I can't help but think the media sort of made John Jones out to be a real bad guy. It's probably because of you know, when you see certain things in life, or you be around certain people, you sort of know the good people from the bad people, the good things from the bad things, whatever, you know. And John Jones is not a bad guy. I think he's a little bit instinctive. Probably does, you know, acts before he thinks at times, but he's a good guy. And I didn't like how he had to constantly explain himself. But I understand that because, you know, these sports people, you know, these fighters, sports people, athletes, you know, they get put on this sort of level where, you know, they're meant to be holy. You know, they can't do anything wrong, and they're not meant to do anything wrong. I think most people in their 20s, in their teenage years, you know, they take a walk on the wild side now and again. I just hope John Jones sorts his act out, as in with his driving, because it could end badly one time. It could risk his own life, his family's life, other people's lives. You've got to be careful with driving, because it's just, you know, it's very easy to die in a car crash, isn't it, or have serious injuries. So wish him all the best. He's a good guy, John Jones. But he's crazy. You know, he's crazy. Of course he's crazy, because he's a UFC fighter. He's one of the best fighters in the world. He's an alpha male, you know, just testosterone, fucking a beast of a man. So he's not exactly, you know, going to be a great person from day to day. He's got something inside him where he can beat the fuck out of someone. Simple as that. So let's get to the predictions anyway. I've got a good card here, a good solid card. I'm going to just really do the main card predictions really here. First of all, we've got Yair Rodriguez against Andre Fili. Let's look at Rodriguez's record here. I think that I'm saying his name right, his first name. Okay, so he's 23-year-old, 5'11", really tall for the 145 weight class, featherweight. 71-inch reach. He has a record of 7 fights, 6 wins, 1 loss. And he has a clean record in the UFC. He actually won the Ultimate Fighter Latin America featherweight tournament one. So he's got a good record. Last time out beating Dan Hooker. What a name. Andre Fili, 25-year-old, 5'11" as well. Really tall guys for this division then. 18 fights, 15 wins, 3 losses. And he has a bit of a patchy record in the UFC, beating Jeremy Larson in his debut. Lost against Max Holloway, no shame in that. Okay, so he won his last fight against Gabriel Benitez, knocking him out or TKOing him in November. So he's going to be against Rodriguez. I've saw more of Rodriguez, so I'm going to go with him. It seems to be a bit of a promising start, actually. Next of all, in the middleweight division, we've got Robert Whittaker against Rafael Natal. I really like Robert Whittaker, seeing him on the Ultimate Fighter. He is 6 foot, 25-year-old. Used to fight in the welterweight division as well. He's a little bit small maybe for the middleweight division then if he used to fight, if he could make the welterweight sort of weight limit. 19 fights, 15 wins, 4 losses. And he is on a real nice streak here. We're actually going to be fighting Bisping, weren't he? But I think Bisping pulled out, had to have surgery or something like that. But in his UFC career, he won the Smashers welterweight tournament, beating Brad Scott, beat Colton Smith, and then he had a little bit of a, you know, a bad spell, losing against Court McGee and then Stephen Thompson. Beat Mike Rhodes, Clint Hester, Brad Tavares, and Uriah Hall. And that's a good win over Uriah Hall, especially after Hall was coming in from the big upset victory over Masasi. So let's look at Natalia. She's 33-year-old, 6 foot as well. Got a good reach for the Division 76. He's had 28 fights, 21 wins, 6 losses, and 1 draw. And he's also on a good streak as well, 4-fight winning streak, beating Chris Camozzi, Tom Watson, Uriah Hall as well, and Kevin Casey. It's going to be a tough one to actually predict this. I'm going to go with Robert Whittaker. I've seen more of him. I actually like his style. Very dangerous on the feet. I think it might go all the way though. I think it might go to a decision. But the thing about Natal as well, he's got a good ground game. But I'm going to go with Robert Whittaker here. I think he might go on to do some good things actually, Whittaker. Next to vote in the lightweight division, we've got Anthony Pettis against Edson Barboza. Anthony Pettis is 29. Whoa, I didn't realise he was 29 actually. I thought he was like 25. 29-year-old, 5'10". I thought he was smaller than that. I feel about 5'9". He's had 22 fights, winning 18, losing 4. He's also the brother of Sergio Pettis, if you didn't know that. Of course you did. Anyway, he's on a bit of a downslide in his career at the moment, if you want to call it that. You know, Dos Anjos completely owned him. It was just a great game plan. And then Eddie Alvarez, you know, people were saying all sorts of crazy things about Eddie Alvarez for his performance against Pettis. But if you know how to beat a guy and you know what you can do, as in, you know you will beat them if you do that game plan, would you do it? And that's what Eddie Alvarez did. He did it. So I don't blame him. What's he going to do? Stand and bang with Pettis? It's not the best idea, is it? It's like when people were giving Carlos Condit abuse years back because he didn't, you know, sort of stand and trade with Nick Diaz. You're not going to beat Nick Diaz by just standing in front of him and, you know, having a boxing match with Nick Diaz. You need to move about, kick the front leg, blah blah blah. You need to have a game plan for each opponent. Simple as that. So Eddie Alvarez did a good job against Pettis, in my opinion. Weren't the best fight to watch, but he did a job. Edson Barboza, on the other hand, really like this guy. He's 30-year-old, 5'11". He's fought at super welterweight as well. Okay, that's interesting. Got a good kickboxing record there as well. MMA record, 20 fights, 16 wins, 4 losses. Okay, so let's look at his record here. Coming to the UFC, went on a 4-fight winning streak, beating 2 British guys as well, Ross Pearson, which was a great fight in 2011. Then he knocked out Terry Etim, and that is always like in the highlights of the UFC knockouts whenever you see them. Lost against Jamie Varner, that was a big upset, then went on a 3-fight winning streak. Lost against Cowboy Cerrone. That was a weird sort of loss. He got sort of dropped with a jab, if I remember correctly, and then Donald just jumped on him, submitted him. Then he beat Evan Dunham and Bobby Green. Lost against Michael Johnson. Beat Paul Felder, who's a dangerous guy. That was a good fight, that. And recently lost against Tony Ferguson in December, but that was a great fight. I'm going to go with Pettis in this one, but you know, Barboza is so dangerous, and I think this is going to be a really, really good fight. And I hope it's not one of those fights that I expect is going to be good, and it's just going to be like a sparring match type of thing. I really hope it lives up to its potential. But I think Barboza needs to have a good game plan in this. I'll go with Anthony Pettis in this, just because of the people he's beat. He's still very dangerous. Okay, in the flyweight division, we've got Mighty Mouse against Henry Cejudo. I think that's how you say his second name. Mighty Mouse is 29, 5'3". Got a record of 26 fights, 23 wins, and 2 losses and 1 draw. Oh, I mean, that record is amazing, isn't it? Back in his the WEC days, he lost his debut against Brad Pickett. Let's look at that. Exhibition or amateur, okay. Lost against Brad Pickett. And then he went on a good streak in WEC, being like Miguel Torres. And Torres at the time, that was in the UFC, that one actually. Torres at that time, though, was like one of the most... I think you can hear that car, can't you? Anyway. Torres at the time was one of the most dangerous fighters in the world. He was one of the best pound for pound best fighters. He lost against Dominic Cruz, a decision, and then he had a draw against Ian McCall. That was a weird fight, that, but a very, very good fight. Then since then, his record's clean. He beat Ian McCall in a rematch, beat Joseph Benavidez, John Dodson, Moraga, Benavidez again. That was crazy KO. Begatinov, and Begatinov actually tested positive for something as well. EPO. Chris Carriazo, Horiguchi, and then John Dodson. So his record is clear. And a lot of people are saying, or a lot of people I respect are saying that this guy is the best fighter in the world. I personally don't think that. I just don't think the competition is good enough in that weight class for him to be classed as the best fighter in the world. You know, I think I class John Jones as the best fighter in the world at the moment, who's active, personally, just by the way he fights and the people he's beat. The people he's beat have got names: Gustafsson, Glover. He's the people. Daniel Cormier. I just think he is the best fighter in the world, and he also beats those guys at their game. That's pretty crazy. Mighty Mouse has got his own game plan and he does his thing his way, but I've got to go with John Jones as the best fighter in the world. Anyway, that's Mighty Mouse's record. Let's look at Henry's. Always makes me laugh when I look at Henry because he looks like Frank Shamrock a little bit. It looks like if Frank Shamrock had a kid. 29-year-old, 5'4". Okay, he's got a clean record, 10 fights, 10 wins. He won a gold medal in the Olympics as well, which is always good. Okay, so in the UFC, he is on a 4-fight winning streak, and every single one of those fights have gone to a decision. His last fight was a split decision against Formiga. Formiga's lost against some of the good guys in the division, being stopped by some of the good guys in the division as well. The thing is about this Henry guy is, I've watched his fights. They're not the best fights in the world either, but it's like one of those things where will he shine when somebody's bringing the fight to him? Similar to like Holly Holm against Ronda Rousey. Like, will he look amazing if Mighty Mouse comes out and fights a certain way? So we won't see the best of him until he's fighting the best. And that's sometimes what happens in the UFC. Somebody just comes out of nowhere and shines. So there's always that. But I've got to go with Mighty Mouse. He's good in all areas. I sort of think this fight for Henry is a little bit too soon as well. He hasn't really fought like the Benavidez, he hasn't fought Dodson's yet. I think he should have had a fight against one of those type of guys before getting a title shot. But that's my opinion. The UFC need to take advantage of someone on one of these streaks in this division at the moment, in the flyweight division. So I'm going to go with Mighty Mouse. I don't know how it will go though. I haven't really got a sort of prediction on that, but I'm looking forward to watching it anyway. And in the main event of the evening, we have John Jones against OSP. You'll understand why I think this guy's the best fighter in the world if you look at his record. Okay, John Jones is 28, 6'4", big guy, 84-inch reach. I mean, fucking hell, he could tickle a giraffe's head with those long arms. 22 fights, 21 wins, and he had a loss against Matt Hamill, but that was like a disqualification, shitty roll with the elbows. Two of his brothers are athletes as well, so he comes from an athletic background. His brothers are Arthur Jones and Chandler Jones, both in the NFL. Okay, so this is why I think this guy is the best fighter in the world. Okay, so he started off his career outside the UFC, winning all those fights by stoppages as well, coming to the UFC in 2008. And then I remember when I seen him against Stephan Bonner. That's the first fight I seen John Jones in, against Stephan Bonner at UFC 94. And he just, he was this young guy. Nobody really heard of him too much. And the way he fought against Bonner just made me think, okay, this guy's got potential. And I remember him he threw Stephan Bonner. I remember he landed like a crazy elbow on him as well in that fight. That dropped Stephan. And people can say what they want about Stephan Bonner, but he's one of the toughest bastards that's ever been in the octagon, Stephan. So it was just a great performance. Beat Jake O'Brien, I think that's Irish Jake O'Brien, and then he lost against Matt Hamill because of disqualification, but he was completely dominating Matt Hamill in that fight, and he was out wrestling him, if I remember as well. Beat Brandon Vera, basically just destroyed him with the elbows on the ground. It was brutal. Matyushenko beat Ryan Bader for a number one contender match against Shogun. Dominated Shogun, and Shogun's one of my favourite fighters. Looked amazing against Rampage Jackson. Choked Machida out on his feet with a standing guillotine. Beat his former teammate and friend Evans. Vitor Belfort gave him a bit of trouble with an armbar, but he still beat him. And don't forget, this is I think Vitor was on TRT then, so he's like really the only guy that beat TRT Vitor cleanly, I believe. Chael Sonnen beat him, just made it look easy. Even had a broken toe in that as well. His like toe snapped and he still beat Chael in the first round. Gustafsson, crazy fight. Personally, I thought Gustafsson won that, but I understand why some of the judges would think otherwise and other people would think because he come on strong in the last round. But I thought Gustafsson won that. But looking back on it, John Jones will having all the craziness and madness in his personal life, so it really shows you how crazy good he is to be, to compete for 5 rounds against someone like Gustafsson, and still, get the win in other people's eyes. So that's just my opinion. Beat Glover. It was just Glover is just a fucking animal. Got that sort of farmer strength, knockout, crazy cardio sort of guy. So, that's that. And he out wrestled an Olympian in Daniel Cormier. The guy is just insane. So that is why I think this guy is the best fighter in the world, John Jones. Still technically not in his prime. I mean, I think the prime age now is in your 30s, isn't it? Some people think that. So he's still got some of his best years to come, I would believe. So he's going to be against OSP. He's 33, 6'3", big guy, 80-inch reach, so he's got a big reach as well. 26 fights, 19 wins, 7 losses. Okay, his last fight was against Rafael Fejao. People call him Fejao. Won him. Weren't the best performance in the world, though. Lost against Glover, but that was an exciting fight, and he just went for it. Glover, ended up choking him out. Beat Patrick Cummins, Shogun. That was a very impressive win against Shogun as well. Like, Shogun rushed in, OSP caught him and just took advantage of it. Lost against Bader, got out wrestled. But got a good, nice record. He has lost some fights earlier on in his career when he was just starting out. But he's definitely in his prime, OSP. So this is going to be an interesting fight for many reasons, because it's like sort of another opponent for John Jones who's around the same height as him, who might cause him trouble. He's done great against people that are smaller than him with the reach and everything like that. So you got to go with John Jones. But this is why it's also interesting, because he hasn't fought in a long time. And there's all this stuff going on, in his life, or has gone on in his life. So will that go against him? He's bulked up a little bit with his frame. There's more muscle. Will that go against him? So it's very intriguing for just to see what John Jones does. And I think this is what some people would call a tune-up fight in the boxing world. That's what it's called, a tune-up fight. But OSP is dangerous. He knock people out. So you've always got to be careful against the guy with power, no matter who you are. So I'm going to go with John Jones in that. So I really appreciate you watching this or listening to this, whatever you want to say. Enjoy the fights and enjoy your weekend and take care. Thank you.